So Lupa has now been out for a week, and I was able to extensively test her in basically all modes, and thought to myself, I might not be a guide maker, but some people might still appreciate my input and opinion on Lupa as a character, especially since I was so hyped about her. We're going to talk about Lupa's build, her rotation, her teammates, her performance in TOA, Whimpering Wastes, as well as hologram bosses, and also share some deeper insight on some of her kit mechanics, and hopefully, by the end of the video, come to a conclusion on how good Lupa in my opinion is for you as a player in terms of gameplay value. As always, if you enjoy this type of content, consider subscribing, as 85% of all my viewers are not. And with that out of the way, let's finally get to the video. The build. Now, I don't want to waste too much time on this, because you can look this up in like 2 minutes. You really don't need me for this. The newest echo set is obviously her best in slot, but what I personally enjoy is that due to Lupa gaining a bunch of fusion damage through her kit, a percentage attack free cost echo, instead of just running a classic double fusion damage one, becomes quite competitive, and is actually what I'm running on her. It makes the building hell a bit easier, since you can now level attack percent as well, and might be luckier there with the substats instead of just religiously having to hunt those fusion damage echoes. For her weapon, as always, run her signature one, duh. But what I still want to mention is that the standard banner one is again quite competitive here, due to the energy regen being a nice stat on her, since you want to have as much ult time as possible, and since she's so oversaturated on fusion damage increase, the attack main stat on the weapon isn't even that bad. But good luck getting those good looking crit values. Rotation. Lupa is incredibly easy and straightforward to play, it's kinda insane. Her rotation is super short, but deals a ton of burst damage, which makes her very flexible in general. You either start off with intro into ult, or if you did an intro skill, you just do skill into ult. Then proceed to instantly use her enhanced skill, spam basic attacks until her forte is full, do a double heavy attack to trigger the forte, and use her enhanced skill before switching off. That's it. There's not a ton of diversity you can do, because this rotation is super fast and basically unloads all her damage in a super short time. You basically should normally not have any reason to diverge from that rotation and make it any longer or shorter. And you normally don't even want to play her quick swap. She really is just that easy and strong at the same time. Her second rotation, funnily enough, seems to be generally stronger, since by then she gets her enhanced intro skill, which deals huge amounts of damage. It really fits her gladiator vibe and is so satisfying. It's so incredibly satisfying to just intro in, nuke them with the enhanced intro, and then insta-ult for another nuke right afterwards. It isn't complicated, but even after doing it over 100 times, it still feels so satisfying to do. Tower of Adversity. Lupa's TOA performance is, after a week of testing, in my opinion, her weakest one. TOA is all about having proper team synergy and rotations, and this is the mode where Lupa's main weakness shown the most: team diversity. I still think she's way better than people give her credit for. I tried a non-fusion Lupa hypercarry team, and considering all the Doom posting I heard, it really wasn't as bad as I expected it to be. Not good enough for me to clear the middle tower, but still good enough to clear both side towers, even when they aren't fusion favored. But once I put Changli with her, oh man, the performance takes a complete 180 and skyrockets, allowing me to clear every tower without issues. It basically felt like Zani Peep, Katefia Chachona, all over again. You don't need Brand at all. He's nice, but Shorekeeper works just as fine. But Changli is a massive power boost. Changli herself is amazing because she deals high damage even when she isn't being buffed by Brand, but also has the perfect outro skill for Lupa, allowing her performance to peak. Lastly, you can obviously run Lupa Anchor, but I really dislike that team because it's basically an Anchor hypercarry team where Lupa isn't doing much else other than being a buffer for her, and using my newly acquired 5-star character as a support for my standard banner one just feels pretty meh. I want to say before moving on that I am really not a big fan of Kuro going more and more into the direction of you basically needing that one specific teammate to really enhance the performance of the limited 5-star. We had it with Zani Peep, we had it with Katefia Chachona, we are having it now with Lupa Changli, and, spoiler, we are having it next patch with Frolova Cantarella. I personally really dislike it. It feels especially bad on Lupa, where she basically has a ton of fusion buffs for teammates. So the moment you don't use her with any fusion whatsoever, she kind of feels dead. And you can really feel it in the gameplay despite it working. But yeah, I do think that this is going to be the future direction of Wuthering Waves, where it's going to be more and more about having the right teammates for one another. Whimpering Wastes. Her by far best mode, no questions asked. Weaver isn't all that much about team synergy like TOA, but it's more about just dealing a ton of damage as fast as possible. So a character that is super easy to execute, has a super fast rotation, and ton of AoE burst damage in that rotation is just crazy good in that mode. As always, Lupa Changli will absolutely destroy Whimpering Wastes. But the difference between other teammates isn't as apparent here as it is in TOA. You can basically just combine her with any teammate in Viva, and once there's downtime in the team, Lupa just comes in, does her thing, and leaves again. This makes her a very flexible unit in Weaver, where you really don't need her best teammates as much as in TOA. This is especially good since a major part of Whimpering Wastes are the tokens, which can be very annoying sometimes since they are clearly character favored. So a character that basically just goes in, booms the field, disappears, is absolutely a goldmine for the future of this mode. Holograms. Alright, the finally good part of Wuthering Waves. So Lupa for Holograms is absolutely insane. I love her so much. Let's start off with the obvious. Her rotation, as we already mentioned, is easy and fast, which is important for holograms in general, and you can get her entire combo off super fast during a stance break. You can also quick swap her against holograms super well, and deal decent chip damage by just doing skill swap, without getting yourself in any form of danger. But even with those things, Lupa still has some very interesting parts about her kit. Let's start with her auto dodge. Lupa grants the team free auto dodges after ulting. I tried it out and I personally find them to be very disappointing. You getting hit is indeed counting as a dodge. The issue is that the full damage still goes through. So despite Lupa's auto dodge giving me the dodge animation, I'm still losing a huge chunk of HP, which makes this skill in practice pretty useless against hologram. It's decent in TOA where you are basically ignoring the enemy and just spamming rotations until they die. So getting hit there is more of a nuisance since it throws you out of the combo, so the auto dodge feature becomes a decent safeguard. But against actually hard enemies, it really isn't an auto dodge as I thought after reading her skill description. This part of her kit was a bit disappointing to me. Her dodge counter. Her dodge counter is so good that it becomes bad in the process. It's pretty funny. Let me explain. Dodge counters are amazing because they extend your iframes after a dodge. Spam dodging in Wuva is bad because you can only dodge 2 times consecutively if you fuck them up. So in general, it's a good habit to dodge counter after a dodge instead of just insta-dodging again, and potentially use dodge counter iframes to avoid damage without having to require that second dodge. Lupa's dodge counter has an insanely big amount of iframes. It's kinda crazy. I counted like 5 to 6 frames. I might be off a bit, but compared to the 2 to 3 frames from Changli, that's like absolutely insane. It's so insane that it makes fast attacking enemies hard to handle. The time slowing effect of a successful dodge will wear off while you are still in your dodge counter iframes, which makes sometimes dodging the enemy's attacks afterwards weird because they are slowed down and suddenly start start attacking normally again. This caught me off guard quite a few times, and it basically just makes Lupa's dodge counter harder to use than other characters. This will require some more practice from me to be able to use it effectively without constantly hurting myself, but I do believe that her dodge counter is insane once you get used to the amount of iframes. The intro skill. It's a bad one. Lupa's intro skill, just like Havoc Rover for example, always leaves you in the air. It's very bad for holograms, and just like with Havoc Rover, you really need to be careful, because you can't dodge in the air and can very easily just get shot down 2 seconds after entering the field. Her intro skill also parries, but it doesn't seem to be consistent. It parries more often than not, but it does seem to happen that Lupa's multiple slashes during her intro accidentally don't hit the parry window, which can be again pretty frustrating. But the main issue remains that she's airborne afterwards. Thankfully, usually after the first intro skill, you should always have the enhanced one after ulting. And the enhanced intro skill is pretty good, since it starts off with her slamming the spear into the ground, which essentially solves the entire issue I have with her intro skill. Parrying. She's beyond broken in this department. Her basic attack 1, which is generally speaking the most important basic attack for holograms, has the fastest parry time I have ever seen. So fast in fact that I went into Premiere Pro and started counting frames. For those nerds interested, Chun-Li's basic attack 1 counters after around 14 frames, Havoc Rover after 11, and Lupa parries after only 10 frames, and that's while also having a second super fast basic attack that also parries in the same time window. She's absolutely insane in terms of parry speed, and her using a spear for it results in her parry range also being exceptionally high. She's absolutely insane for parrying. It's kinda disgusting how good she is. The spear kick. Since we are talking about parrying, let's go over her first normal resonance skill, which is a spear kick. To answer everyone's question, yes, that spear kick can parry, and it is not just a funny, cool gimmick, but it's actually very useful in a ton of situations. It's essentially a parry on range, without needing some shenanigans like having to have Carlotta ult up to parry from range. The spear kick is insanely useful against Dragon of Dirge, for example, where you can keep your distance, see that the parry window is coming, and just shoot him down. It's very satisfying to use. Against melee enemies like Mephisto or Floidalis, it becomes trickier, however. You generally can't react anymore, since the kick has too long of a wind-up on range, which means that you have to know that a parry is about to come and shoot the spear in advance. It's still very useful, but it's not some brain-dead ranged auto parry that you can just use without thinking at all. Still, another incredibly strong tool in her kit, which basically no other character has so far. And that's basically all my insight and opinion on Lupa. I overall think she's super fun to play and so good. Her weakest mode in my opinion is TOA, since that's where having Chun-Li is the most important one, but her performance is still decent and actually really good if you have Chun-Li. Not using her with a fusion team does of course severely reduce her power, since a ton of her passives and skills are just fusion buffing abilities, and Kuro does of course want you to play at least Chun-Li with her, and preferably brand Chun-Li. She's super good for Whimpering Wastes, and honestly I personally find Weaver more important than TOA, since it's harder to clear in my experience, and her tools and kit for holograms are also all in all crazy good, which makes her a overall really strong and fun character in my opinion. I'm very happy that I pulled for her, and are so happy that I finally have the perfect teammate for my Chun-Li. I will admit though, Carlotta Chun-Li was still a bit more fun, simply because of how quick swap heavy it was. I think if you like Lupa, and if you have Chun-Li or Brand or other fusion characters that you enjoy playing, that Lupa is overall a very good and great addition, simply because she does so many different things. And that's honestly all from my Lupa review. This is the first video of this sort, and might be the only one, since I don't really view myself as some crazy good guide maker or theory crafter. Let me therefore know if you want to see more character review guide-like videos like this one on future characters or not. and of course, what your opinion and experience with Lupa is. Consider subscribing if you watched this far, and I will see you in the next one.